I know many of you enjoyed my interview with San Francisco Ballet principal dancer Sasha DeSola, and we mentioned Myles Thatcher. And I have to say, I told her, please get him on my show so that we can talk. And guess what? San Francisco Ballet soloist Myles Thatcher and choreographer is here today. Myles, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm
I'm excited
excited.
to
Yeah.
chat. Yeah.
This is so good. I feel like I have to ask this question because we've all been experiencing it for almost a year now. How has the pandemic been treating you? What has it been like for you as a dancer and choreographer?
Yeah, I think it's so rare for someone in our field to really have this amount of time away from the theater and rehearsing and even training, unless, we have an injury, heaven forbid. So that's been definitely definitely something new for all of us is uh, really not having that identity of and community. But also I think it's been a tough year for nearly everybody. So it also just reminds me of all of the beautiful things that I'm grateful for in my life, and like, even being able to keep my job and have a roof over my head and kind of be taken care of in that way, and still, working in San Francisco Ballet, still being able to work and create is super important to me. So that definitely got me out of a little emotional funk, I have to say.
We've all been there in the emotional funk. It comes in waves too. Like you think like I am sailing through this
Yeah,
week and all of a sudden you hit a wall and you're like, where did that come from?
exactly.
Dance it out, right? I would love to know what was it like going back to the studio for the first time. I know you guys are working in pods, but that it just must have been such a day of relief and joy, so many mixed emotions.
Yeah, I was super nervous about it, just because we were starting back with my new work, and I hadn't really choreographed in a while because we're all stuck at home, and I know a lot of the dancers hadn't kind of turned on their new works brain, which is just like a lot of learning steps and kind of reprogramming them in their bodies, right? So I was like, okay, this will either go two ways. It'll either be like a disaster and we'll all be super rusty and kind of have this like learning curve to catch back up, or or the creative floodgates will open. And I really, I feel like it was the latter, which I was really uh, happy about, where I think everybody was just ready, like really hungry to work again. And we all just had so much to kind of energy to give, and especially since we were broken up into pods, that was really all we were working on. And we're not used to having that much time to really work on and prepare new work. So that was also a real gift. And to just like see each other and be able to kind of partner again and touch each other. I think there was a moment where I was like, okay, are we jumping in? Are we doing this? But luckily, the ballet really set us up for success with their health and safety protocols. And yeah, I just feel super grateful that we're able to work in like the safest way possible. So yeah, it's
What
good.
is it like as a choreographer, having this time off and then being able to create new work, a world premiere that we will see, I think it's February 11th through March 13th, if I have those dates correct. Um,
February 11th.
yes, did I mean, were ideas flowing to you like crazy, or were you just like, okay, maybe I'm gonna try this, maybe I'm gonna try that, because the creative process was sort of halted at a certain point for all of us.
Yeah, I think with any creative process, it's super important to kind of um, live, prepare yourself as much as you can, but still like live in the moment and look for opportunities to kind of pivot your vision just based on the resources you have. And I think that's important through like anything creative, regardless of this really like particular creation time. I think anybody who's creating right now understands that things change day to day. So that was something I was expecting. But I do feel that preparing something for film as opposed to on stage, which I'm really used to, creating works to be seen in a proscenium theater. It it's quite a different experience, and I have less experience doing that because there are less opportunities to really like make this kind of dance work on such a large scale, which I was super excited about. And also it kind of allowed me to work in line with a lot of different creative voices, which I don't necessarily always need to do when I'm just making the work for stage, because it's usually like I'm directing the vision and kind of bringing people on board with me, and then we're all trying to achieve the same thing. But now I have, you know, like a director who has all of this knowledge about film work that I am not as well versed in, of course, and a director of photography, and then, you know, of course, like our lighting department and my costume designer and all of these people, and just the production, the producers and the production manager and everybody, to just kind of get on board with all of these different elements that you might not necessarily think about when you're putting together kind of such a big film project, but they're all super important. So that was kind of that was just a different way of working for me, of having to really be clear and spell out my intention with the whole thing before it's finished. So like, you know, really in process. So that was like a definitely a different way of working, but really fun. And I got to learn a lot, which, you know, I'm a big nerd. So that was fun.
Well, what do you think was the biggest surprise in really creating a brand new work for the camera compared to the stage? Something that you weren't expecting, because you knew that there are going to be challenges of like, okay, I have to make sure that this particular move looks focused on camera and that the audience gets it. But there had to have been a surprise along the way that you weren't expecting.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think just finding, and this is like back to what you mentioned about kind of um having to stay flexible, is finding these opportunities that actually had nothing to do with like the dancing moments and the dancing steps, but like really responding to the spaces that we were in, because we were in really epically beautiful spots, and making sure that we can storytell not only through dance, but in film through all of these like very specific non-dancing moments that I think are really kind of special and beautiful, and there's less of an opportunity to be so direct with kind of like uh, uh, focusing your audience's perspective on stage.
Mhm.
So that was something that was really fun to explore with my director, and I really kind of, you know, trusted him to find those moments too. So yeah, it was really like just a lot of new opportunities to storytell, which I think is really fun, and you can learn a lot.
Well, I cover commercial dance here in Los Angeles, so I'm always talking about dance on camera. I've got to imagine this inspired more for you. I mean, probably opening up so many doors and probably opportunities once the world gets the opportunity to see it, for you to create even more work on film.
Yeah, I hope so. I think dance on film is like a well studied art form. But I think it's less common within the structure of ballet companies, just because really our bread and butter is theater performances. And in addition, there's a different, I think, demand of the spaces for classical technique. If, you know, women are in point shoes and we need like a specific floor to dance on, and kind of specific conditions that I think other dance forms can be like maybe slightly more flexible. I don't know if that's fair to say, but uh, I, I I think this project, it was fun to really kind of be able to play off of the two worlds, because I've choreographed for film before in like a actual like feature length movie that was
High
about
strung
dancers.
free dance.
Nice try dance,
I'm a
which was really
fan.
fun. But that, yeah, that was such a fun project. I've never like laughed so much on a project. I swear to God, Tice is amazing.
We'll
But
get to
that was
that in a
something that
minute.
yeah, we were really like serving the story, right? And I've also translated works that I've made for stage onto film, and made, you know, like smaller kind of like teaser videos that are made for film, but nothing that feels as a substantial length as this, I guess I would say. And also um just like allowing the pacing to work in like a longer film is just a different, it's a different animal than the stage where you're kind of like sat in a theater in the dark without your phone focusing all together. It's like it's kind of a different experience. But I really think it's a great opportunity to show off San Francisco Ballet and like the beauty of the company. Like this is my home company. I've been here for 12 years, something like that. And I know everybody back and front, and I know everybody's strengths, and I really love this place, and that's why I'm still here. So I just no pressure, but I felt like this was a really great opportunity to share the things I find beautiful about this company to people who might not be in San Francisco and who might only be kind of like seeing us through the lens of what we can communicate in like the digital sphere and the social media sphere. So that opportunity was really exciting for me, and I also felt like a lot of pressure to do everybody justice. Which, seeing the product, I feel like everybody looks awesome. So I feel happy about.
You feel good about it.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
do you think San Francisco Ballet will embrace? Because listen, nothing's going to replace the theater, because I cannot wait
Right.
to sit in a theater and just spend 3 hours lost in a world. But do you think that they will also embrace some aspects of this digital season that they're doing, because it does open up opportunities for all of us, because I can't get to San Francisco all the time, or people from across the globe don't get the opportunity to see your work if you're not touring. Have you heard anything that
I mean,
maybe?
I have no idea. I think everybody's really happy with the products that um, we've made, and I'm working alongside a few really talented choreographers and making very specific projects for film. They haven't been released yet, so we don't really know what all of that is going to look like. But I think, I mean, I think this is something that ballet world has been thinking about slowly, and this has just kind of given us an impetus to kind of kickstart these projects, because we've been doing some like video trailers for theater works that have been proven to get more butts and seats. And I think it's a great opportunity for us to kind of just like rethink how we are sharing our art with folks. And I think that's really special and really important for keeping people interested in what we're doing. So yeah, I wouldn't be. I really hope that we keep investing in works like this, just because I think they just engage us in a different way, and I think there's a lot to be explored kind of within the ballet sphere. And I think so many different artists have completely different approaches of how they would tackle something like this. And that's something that if you see the new works in the digital season, you'll see like my work is like fully different from Danny Rose, which is going to be fully different from Kathy Marston. So it's really kind of fun to see people play and explore and share what they got.
Yeah, and that's what I love about San Francisco Ballet, is that you guys do the classics, but you're also doing contemporary work, which makes you guys so well versed as
Yeah.
dancers and as artists. It's really impressive to see.
Yeah. And the reality is, like, if I'm like throwing down money to go see Beyonce at a show, it's not because I've never seen Beyonce before. It's like I've seen all of her videos, I know the quality she puts out, I know all of her music, and I'm going to see that because of the familiarity I have, and like the products I know that I'll get from all of these like other avenues. So I'm really hoping that, as a art form, we can see the value of not being like stingy with kind of what we hold close to us. And yeah, I just, for me, like, more is more. I think like the more generous the better. And the more people will want to see us live, because like you said, there's no replacing that feeling of being in the theater when the lights go down and the orchestra has just tuned and it's right before that curtain comes up. And it's just, that's something I just really miss, being stuck at home. But
Yeah. I think about it a lot, honestly. Right before the pandemic, right before the shutdown, and I'm going to say it was 7 days maybe, I went to see American Ballet Theater's world premiere of Love and Rage down here in Southern
oh,
California, which was incredible. But I look back on those photos and think it's so burned in my brain, because it was the last time I sat amongst thousands
mm.
of people in a theater. I can't wait for
And
that
now I
again.
can't even dream of doing that. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, wait, where's your mask? Yeah.
I know my mask. Yeah, I'll have a mask this time probably, but
Yeah.
Socially
Yeah,
distant.
I think we're all excited for that. We're all excited for that moment.
And a vaccine. I'm going to get a vaccine.
Yeah.
What inspired you to want to choreograph? Because I don't think that everyone is compelled to choreograph. I feel like there's something inside an artist that is always like bubbling beneath the surface. Some people just want
Mhm.
to dance. Some people, also have the choreography gene in them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm somebody who always needs to have my hands in something creative, whether that's like knitting, like so, whether it's knitting or choreo, like just something I really like to be producing something, no matter what scale it's on. I think when I first started when I was in school when I was 19. And I just kind of told myself that I would only explore it as long as I was doing things that I kind of found exciting and interesting to me. And I think at first I was, of course, like, excited about the products, the show we were putting out, and the more I work, the more I realize that that's actually I don't think that's what keeps me going. The thing I love about this art form and I love about choreographing is it's such a collaborative art form. Like I can't do my job without other people. Like I can't do my job without dancers and without a production team, and I'm like constantly learning from them and trying to pull from them and kind of like work to, yes, perhaps like plant the seed of the vision and kind of direct the thing, but produce something that I couldn't do just on my own and that wouldn't be as good if I did just on my own. So I think there's something about that process of like working with alongside people and learning from them and really building this thing that is better than anything we could have done without each other. I think it's just so beautiful for me. And and I also I think I like spent a lot of my adult life trying to avoid articulating myself through words. So I think like that's what I really love about dance is I try and find I think I try and find like emotional cues or storytelling or things that are just better served being told through movement and human bodies, and because that's something that is so universal. Like we all inhabit a body and we can all respond to bodies in space in a way that really kind of like negates language barriers, and I think there's something really kind of beautiful about that, like
I love
taking
that.
out the uh, intellectual side of or the linguistic side of the brain and kind of like cutting into the emotional side in a way that yeah, it's just unique to the art form.
Who are the choreographers who came before you that have inspired you? Is there anyone who mentored you through some of this?
That's a hard question because everybody, I think there's like such a long list of people that I look up to. I feel lucky again to be in San Francisco Ballet because we do so many new works, and I was able to kind of be in the room with so many great minds like Bill Forsyth and Alexia Rotmansky and Annabelle Ochoa Lopez, and somebody who I haven't worked with that I would love to is Crystal Pite. She's like one of my top faves. And our, Yuri Posakov, our choreographer in residence, and Alonzo King, like just the list kind of goes on and on and on. Christopher Wilden. Um, I was part of a mentorship program that was sponsored through the Rolex Arts Initiative, where I studied with Alexia Rotmansky, who formerly was the director of Bolshoi Ballet and now is the choreographer in residence at ABT for a
Of Love and
long time
Rage.
now, and pretty prolific.
Yep,
And
yep.
yeah, I got to go down to Seagram to see the opening of his Sleeping Beauty. So yeah, I kind of got to shadow him for a year, and we had a lot of, I got to show him all my work, and we had a lot of like really just great exchanges of not only like the technicalities of the job, but just like I think sometimes when you choreograph, you can kind of feel alone in the journey because you were really kind of at the front of the room directing the show, and I think for both of us it was nice to have just like a friend
I
to
have
be
a
able
buddy
to
in the
be like,
room.
okay, but what do you, yeah, like, yeah. And I thought it was just so generous of him of tackling that relationship like that, because he he didn't need to do that. Like I would have been happy with anything, but he was just so generous with his feedback and time and energy, and he's just one of the like greatest, nicest, most generous people that I've got to meet. So you know, it's nice to see somebody who's really at the top of their game, like who is also such a good person. Gives me gives me makes me feel good about the profession that I'm pursuing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it also inspires you to give back to the generation that's following behind
Oh,
you too.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I
Again,
love.
it's all of that's what it's all about. That's what art is all about. It's all about like sharing perspectives and kind of like gaining a better standing of the human experience in some way or another. And so why, you know, why not connect with people? I think that's like just the most beautiful gift that we've been given. And that's been like slightly taken away because of COVID, but we are working around
We're
it.
getting it back. I
We're
promise.
here.
Like, we're gonna get it back. Well, I want everyone to be back for at least Nutcracker season. Come on. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
went to
I'm hopeful. Yeah.
what did you guys do? Did you guys do a digital Nutcracker at San
Yeah, we
Francisco?
did yeah, we did a digital Nutcracker package with we had uh like a 3D virtual tour of the opera house, which was really
Oh, that's
interesting,
cool.
and all the kind of Easter eggs in it. And um although it was strange, it was like my first year not doing Nutcracker in I don't know how long.
Wow.
So
I
we're
went
like,
to
oh,
drive-through Nutcrackers down here in Southern California. I watched digital ones.
nice.
I just I really embraced it, but I'm ready to be back in the theater for next season for
Yeah,
sure. Uh,
absolutely.
I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Helgi Thomason's retirement. The day I
Yeah.
talked to Sasha, you guys had just found out that morning, and she didn't have a lot of
Mhm.
time to really let it sink in. Obviously, there's been a little time now. How are you feeling now? Because people are it's bittersweet. You know, you're happy to see him move on to his next part of his adventure, but at the same time, he's so well loved.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like I owe so much to him for just trusting me and continuing to give me opportunities to create, and at the pace that he gave them to me, I think was really helpful. And also I think he's somebody who really like allowed me to explore what I want to explore, and I think there's something really beautiful about that approach. I think it was super helpful for me like in defining my values as an artist. But at the same time, I think he's done so much for this company, obviously, and I think he's ready to focus on other parts of his life, which I get because that job that job is so demanding.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, any sort of transition is always a little bit scary, but in the spirit of changing times, I guess this is what will be up next. And I think he's really set up the company to because he's staying on for this
18
next
months, right?
season,
I
or
think.
like yeah. So I think he's also making sure we're set up before he kind of departs, which is great that he's giving us that time to find a good person to fill his shoes, which will that's going to be a
Big
big
shoes.
task. Big shoes, yeah. Yeah, so but of course, like he's, I think, almost 40 years been the director, so there'll of course inevitably be a lot of changes, but I also think like he's built something that that is beautiful and works, and he's picked like such a great team. Like I've never, we just have such beautiful dancers here, and that are all kind of like independent and smart and free thinking and responsible and intelligent, and I just really appreciate that. Again, it feels like home. So yeah, but new chapters. We'll see what's coming next.
That's exciting. Okay, let's talk about
Mhm.
Tice because I have known Tice a very long time.
Oh,
How did
good.
I've covered many seasons of So You Think You Can Dance. I used to spend my summers there. Um,
So
High Strung
fun.
Free Dance went to the
Mhm.
premiere. Love both movies, but how did Tice bring you in to the film?
Let's see. I got a call from the directors Sorry, I have to like go back in my memory bank because that was when 26. Did we make it in
16, 17?
2016 or yeah?
Yeah.
So a while ago, and basically they were looking for someone to kind of tackle this classical element that of course they really like appreciate in the dance sphere. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot, and it was really fun. So we filmed in the the part I was able to attend to because I couldn't stay the entire filming just because I had to get back to working, but as a dancer. But I was in Romania for 2 weeks to choreograph all of the classical bits and help structure that big long ending dance sequence, which was kind of a giant task just because of there's so many varying styles of all of the dancers. But I think it was just really fun to be able to like sit down and explore with him and Philip, who did all of the like real street dancing sections.
Philip Shabib,
And
just so
yeah,
everyone knows.
he's amazing. Oh my God. Yeah.
He's a genius.
And yeah, he's incredible. And like again, he and Mackenzie are just like the nicest people you'll ever meet.
And the
Um,
cutest couple and
and
like everything.
yeah, they're just great. And Sydney Moss Tice's assistant was there,
Mhm.
who was also really integral to like shaping this thing. Uh, yeah, and we just kind of like sat down and figured out how to like structure it in order to make sure everybody kind of had a moment to shine, but still um, tried to make it as unified as possible. And I honestly, seeing the film, I think the dance sequences are really great. Like so I feel really happy to have had that experience. And also I have to say, like, from day one, this was like one of my favorite, I think, creation periods, because I was just crying laughing from because the team was just so funny and so engaging and welcoming, and um it was just so fun. It was really a great time.
Well, you guys should be really proud too. That final dance scene is just, it's beautifully shot. It looks really expensive. And the Damians, they love dance. And to see what they did in the first movie and then really stepped it up in the second movie is impressive. So you guys should be really proud of what you created.
Yeah, and they invested in great dancers too, which I so appreciate. Um I know Janine was super adamant about getting like dancers with really strong classical technique, and Juliet I've known since she was in the school for San Francisco Ballet, and she is just such a dream to work with, and really brought something to that character that was so special. Watching that film, like she nailed the balance in Barlow. And also, I got to work with Thomas Doherty a little bit
Mhm.
in I don't think he has a super strong dance background, but I got to work with him briefly, and he really like convinced me. So I was really impressed with like how
Well, we've
how
all
how
seen
much
those dance movies where the person like can't dance and then they try and get them to dance and it's like this porter bra.
right,
Okay,
right, and it's
Julia
so cool.
Stiles and
But
Save the Last Dance. We all know that last scene when she's trying to audition for Juilliard. Juilliard would never
uh-huh.
let her in. But it's still a fun
No, it's
dance
the
movie.
suspended fantasy. Yeah.
Right. It's like you just have to suspend disbelief. And but this like look, that's the thing. Like this all looked realistic in every aspect of
Yeah,
it because of
yeah,
the dancing and the
yeah.
choreography.
I have to say, I was really impressed with the entire team, and it was just such a fun project to work on. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
And you're in Romania. Like when else were you going to go to Romania?
Yeah, in the whole, like, all of the staff were nice. I got to meet dancers from Romania who are part of the national company there, and they're just like the
Incredible.
sweetest people. And we took, on one of our days off, we did a tour through Transylvania, just looking at old castles and old kind of architecture and relics, which was like incredible. And yeah, it was really like a unique and fun experience that I'm happy I said yes to.
I love it. I love the movie. So I'm like, oh, don't think where you're getting away with that me discussing strung free dance. One thing I always like to ask male dancers and choreographers, because a couple years ago we had the hashtag of boys dance too. And to me, it
Mm.
was a really powerful moment but I just hope that sort of as a movement it continues, because I know a lot of times boys in dance get teased, which is to me is always ridiculous, because I'm like, you guys are athletes as well as being artists, which is harder than probably just any other sport all by itself, because you're asked to be athletic and you're also asked to be emotional at the same time.
Mhm.
Are you still hearing from dancers who are coming up about that, and just happy that they have mentors like you in the industry?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I didn't tell anybody I was training in ballet like until I was in eighth grade or something. I was really like a closeted ballet dancer in order to, not get beat up at
Yeah.
school, which I think is just such a shame. Um, but I also have to say, like, I have not experienced any of that since. And even because like Uber drivers or cab drivers will be like, hey, like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, oh, a ballet dancer. And it's amazing because I've like 99% of the time the response is like, oh my God, that's amazing. I so appreciate how you like dedicate your life to this art form, and I hear it's super disciplined, blah blah blah. And like I love ballet. And I'm like, oh yeah, when was the last time you saw a ballet? And they're like, oh, never. And so I think like I don't know. I live in San Francisco, where I think we're a very like arts oriented city, and that's important. But yeah, I think there's a general conversation of just allowing space for people to pursue what they want to pursue,
Mhm.
despite these like super weird and awkward gender norms we kind of impose onto people. Uh, and I'm seeing like the next generation kind of embrace that in a more intuitive way than perhaps like my generation has, and that makes me feel hopeful and excited. And yeah, I think it even from that incident, I think I think the world really proved that we're like, okay, giant eye roll, like, come on, do something, like have a little bit more nuanced commentary in your life,
Right.
because like these low blows like don't really aren't so relatable, especially like towards little kids. I'm like, oof,
I know, and
yikes.
Prince George was tiny at the time too. I think it was like
Yeah, I'm
4.
like, okay, really low blow here, but good for you. I bet you feel mighty important now, right? So
It was,
I don't know. I
it was a
think that
very public lesson for Lara Spencer to learn. Let's just put it that way. But I think the good thing is that I think it opened the dialogue and opened the conversation to more people just understanding that anyone can dance, and just because it's ballet doesn't not it's still a sport. Honestly, it really is, because I'm like, you try and get through an hour and a half company class, most of you won't survive the first round of plies. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting conversation because I think like a lot of people's initial instinct is to try and like prove ma- that ballet has this masculinity to it, which like yeah, sure, it has this bravura, and like talk about every dancer coming from Cuba, where it is actually like a very, and Spain, which is a very macho culture and thing to do. But at the same time, I think it's also important to like leave space in the ballet world for like gender non-conforming people, which like we honestly don't have anyway. So like I think that conversation also like put some people in another box, because I know like as a ballet dancer internally from culture, I think like I am pressured to act more masculine than I possibly am in order to make up for these um the stigma that Americans have around that, and then I'm like, but this is also not it, because I'm not trying to like puff up my chest and be overly defensive of my masculinity because I'm a ballet dancer. Like I think that also doesn't really solve anything. So I think the conversation is so interesting because it's really like a pendulum, and it can swing both ways, and there are a lot of people just stuck in the middle, like, okay, uh uh like I can dance ballet and like not also be equated to a football player, because we also do different things, and it's just really interesting. I think, I mean, for me, like any conversation on gender nonconformity is like super interesting, and how it relates to like our society today, and especially the art form that I like have dedicated my whole life to. And it's interesting to be on, like, really in the bubble of that, and seeing how the conversation can swing too far the other way and create this other form of toxicity within the art form. So I mean, all of it is great to chat about, and it's just fascinating to me.
Well, it is. And, you know, I've had this conversation with So You Think You Can Dance, because Nigel Lithgow, and I've talked about this with him, so it's not like I'm speaking behind his back by any means, but a lot of times he would tell male dancers, like, we need you to dance more masculine. And sometimes to the females, you need to dance more feminine. And I always think that we all have masculine and feminine qualities within us, and how you're interpreting the music, it may be a more masculine moment, or it may create a feminine moment for me. But I almost feel like it's about, maybe just, we're using the wrong words too. Maybe it's like strength, maybe it's about a lyrical quality. And now we're equating it to gender and masculine and feminine. It gets really confusing, because there are a lot of dancers, whether they're transgender, you know, or non-binary dancers, who are trying to fit into the dance world. And we're just saying, boys over here, girls over here. What, you know, anyone who doesn't fit into those two boxes, what are we doing? We're not being inclusive.
And I think part of it is just allowing ourselves to really untangle all of these terms that I think you know, as I think we're getting kind of more familiar with, and we're allowing ourselves to kind of like separate gender from sexuality, to femininity and masculinity, to all of these different elements. So you know, of course, all of that, it also feels very like generational, and kind of takes some work in order to be just like make the most inclusive space as possible. Because you know, for me, this art form has afforded me like so much growth, and it's pushed me and supported me so much in my life, and it pains me to think that not everybody is invited to share that. And you know, that's not just in this spectrum, but in like race and class and ability and body type. And I think we're getting to a point where we're starting to really appreciate people and see people for where they are. And you know, just despite labels, I think like we'll get to the point where we have so many labels, we'll just kind of be able to like move past that and see each
Let them
as
all
like
fall away.
dancing. Like, hey, this part of you makes you really talented. Like, I love this about you as a dancer, and let's celebrate this, instead of having to like put every dancer in like, this is the one thing that will, you know, be your talent or whatever. So I think like in, especially like as a choreographer, I try and challenge the way, or constantly challenge the way I see other dancers and cast other dancers, and incorporate that into the vision, whether that's like challenging my own aesthetic choices, and or my own process of casting, or creating a role for somebody. I think like the best things we can do as a choreographer is really try and I think like maximize and amplify individual talents, and like play to the dancer's strengths, no matter what they are.
Right.
So and again, that's like the fun part. That's the collaboration part. That's like, let's challenge each other and support each other, and see like what kind of magic we can make together. So I think, you know, I think we're getting there, and I think the more we speak about it, the more awareness there is, and the more everybody can just kind of like tap into that consciousness of like, oh, maybe I can change the way I look at you know, my art form or my process, in order to kind of like see and value like everybody in a different way. So I think, you know, I think it's all good. That's the thing.
It is all good. And, you know, and when Matthew Bourne can go out there and do a Swan Lake and change our mind of what a classical ballet looks like, and sell it out all over the world, you know, he's onto something. And all these other choreographers, including yourself, are going to be changing minds. So it's good. Keep pushing forward, and I'll keep pushing the dialogue.
That's another story. Yeah.
One final question. This is kind of like a big one, but in terms of your career, has this year and shifted your goals at all? Do you have sort of a 5-year sort of plan of like where you want to be? Because, you know, right now you're a dancer and choreographer. Do you see yourself at some point sort of shifting to choreographer?
Oh my God, that is such a hard question. And that's something that's something that,
Such a big one, I
you
know.
know, thinking back in the past, I always, the more I attach myself to a plan, the more it kind of blows up into my face, I
It's true.
think. You know, I'm kind of I'm again, I'm the person that I'm like, okay, I'm happy to prepare myself as much as possible, but I think like leaving room um for flexibility and making sure I don't kind of like hold on to expectations because honestly, like a lot of the time I just like end up frustrated. So I, you know, it's hard to say that again. Like there's going to be a big transition coming up at in our company, and I think that'll really dictate kind of where I stand. I do I do really. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm kind of in the older end of my dancing career. Like I'm 30 now, so I've had a good, you know,
You're not old.
11 years under my belt, and just because I just feel for the kids trying to get a job right now, or like really trying to step into the professional world right now because of the struggles the arts are facing, and
Yeah.
and just kind of getting reacquainted there. So I feel grateful for that. But yeah, I just hope I can keep creating in an authentic way and in a way that feels good, and whether that's dancing or choreographing or knitting or whatever that would be. Yeah, and I think I do think that this pandemic is really affording the dance world an opportunity of starting to get its, or the ballet, I should say the ballet world, because the dance, you know, it's a bit of a separate kind of like niche element of getting its feet wet in digital content,
Mhm.
and seeing places like Scottish Ballet that already have an established digital season, and kind of how they've incorporated that into um, you know, I think it's been 4 years, something like that, where they've already had that into their season and how that functions, and starting to see how different companies are like expanding the way they look at what it is to create art. I think it's super exciting. So I'm hoping that, you know, we as an art form can kind of explore and reap the benefits of that, and kind of maximize whatever that means. I think, you know, I think we'll keep learning about that as we move forward, but I'm hoping it's something that's here to stay.
I hope so too. I'm looking forward to it because I do think incorporating digital and live theater is going to be kind of a wonderful way to move forward, honestly, and one of the better things to come out of the pandemic. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and how fun, I mean, how fun to be able to like really integrate these mediums together, and find just, so there's so many possibilities, and we've seen like some, I mean, even the film Pina, I don't,
Oh yeah,
that came
Peter
out
Bausch, yes,
10 years ago. Oh, that, I mean, that film is just still like the bar for me.
and nominated
And
for an Oscar. I mean,
I mean, yeah, I got to see it in 3D, which was also
ooh,
incredible.
I'm jealous.
So yeah, I think it's fun for me to like be able to explore in that, and also see what other people are doing and hear from different voices other than myself, because that's what you know, makes this art form beautiful, is the more perspectives and stories we can tell, the more we can learn from each other, and kind of see through someone else's eyes. So I'm excited to see where the art form is going, and kind of embracing that.
I love it. Well, we're
Hopefully.
looking forward to seeing your world premiere February 11th through March 13th, San Francisco Ballet. You can get tickets on their website. Myles, thank you so much for joining me. This was such a fun conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's
I'll have to
great
thank Sasha
chatting
too
with
for cooking us up.
Yes, me too. Oh, one of my favorite people on this planet.
She's the best.
She's really